we get into some more practical sessions about how you actually organize your practice, I'd like to take an opportunity to discuss one more non-traditional practice. I'm aware that most people will choose to follow a more traditional practice such as meditation, contemplation, yoga, or some other physical activity, works with icons, journaling, or using prayer beads or some other thing like that. But I think less traditional methods can help us see what we hope to gain and how we should approach our more traditional practice. Today I'd like to talk about a man named Frederick Frank. Frederick Frank was a man who had great influence over me. He was born in Holland in 1909, just before the start of the First World War, and he moved to Belgium. As a child, he witnessed the procession of soldiers, wounded, refugees that the war had produced. This caused him to become both a very compassionate person, but also a lifelong advocate of peace. As he grew up, he followed his uncles and became a doctor, eventually earning 3 medical degrees, one from Edinburgh, and became a dental surgeon. As Hitler was rising in Europe, he left Europe and eventually settled in New York, where he began to practice medicine. In 1957, Frank and his wife went to Gabon in Africa and spent 3 years working as a dental clinic attached to Albert Schweitzer Hospital. During that time, Frank became much more interested in drawing and spirituality than in the practice of medicine. Out of that time, he produced a book which was drawings of Albert Schweitzer in his hospital and the work and what he saw there. When he returned to the United States, he limited his practice to give him more time to draw and to read widely about spiritual practices. He soon began to see these two activities as being intimately related. In the early 60s, Frank gave up his medical practice and became the official artist at the Vatican II Council in Rome, where he met Pope John XXIII, who became a lifelong inspiration to him. In 1973, he published a book called The Zen of Seeing, in which he suggests drawing as a way to engage the world and in such a way that it leads to prayer and a deeper spiritual understanding. To Frank, drawing was a spiritual practice. How is it a spiritual practice? Like any other practice, it causes us to draw our attention away from the world and the usual clutter of our minds and to concentrate on one thing. In the case of sketching, a landscape, or a flower, or a person. In doing this, we create the space to engage fully with that thing and really get to know it. Not as just a landscape or just a flower or just a person, but this place as it is now, a flower as it is now, this person as it is now. It takes us from the general to the specific and grounds us in the here and now. We will see in the future that so much of our time is spent either in the past, which is gone, or the future, which isn't here yet. But it's in the now we encounter the source. So anything that draws us into the now draws us closer to that source. So drawing is one of those things that draws us to the now. Like all practices, it creates space to allow us to engage with the now and helps us to free us from our chaotic and random thoughts. I will suggest for any practice of work, it needs to do this: create space, bring us into the now, and engage us in such a way that we lose what many spiritual guides have called the monkey mind, the mind that's constantly chattering and jumping from tree to tree. All the sculptures and drawings in this session were by Frank, and I will end this session with a slideshow of some more drawings, sculptures, and quotes.